Good evening. It's Tuesday night. It's 5:52 p.m. UK time. I'm Smuggsy. His name's Jim.
I'm Jim.
Sorry, mate. I didn't hear. Sorry, mate. I've overwritten you there, mate. I've overwritten you there. His name's Jim, and we're here back live for the M5 show, where we're going to do a deep dive into the Bayern Munich game. Also, look back to the Chelsea game and the fallout of that, and we're going to look ahead to tomorrow against Brentford, and then the Saturday lunchtime kickoff at Villa Park against Aston Villa. So before we begin, I'm going to say a massive big introduction to my co-host and good pal, Jim. How you doing, mate?
All good, pal. All good. We've had an adventurous week on and off the pitch, haven't we? So gone through quite a bit. But yeah, no, mate, cracking week all in all. And yeah, looking forward to getting on with the show. How are you, pal? You've had an eventful one.
Yeah, it's been man, I tell you, the last 3-4 weeks have been probably for my family, probably the toughest ever. But I just want to, as you said that, mate, I just want to say a massive thank you, firstly to yourself, but a lot of the community that obviously we've got across the fan base and all that as well. Some absolutely incredible people and incredible gestures that I've obviously received over the last 5 to 7 days. And the good thing is obviously Bobby is back at home. He is I wouldn't say he's well at the moment, but hopefully fingers crossed we can try and keep him out of hospital.
He's on the mend, which is good news, and I'm sure as much as anyone in the Smuggsy household, he's after a Brentford win tomorrow to make him feel a bit better.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I know his old man definitely needs that anyway. And how's your week been, mate?
Yeah, good. Yeah, no. My mum's been in town, so she only gets to come over once a year, really. So she's been able to see the kids and stuff, which has been good. And then you're sort of getting a bit Christmassy and stuff now, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? So done a few Christmassy things, had a nice weekend away. Yeah, mate, all good. Getting ready for the countdown. I've eaten more quality street in the last 72 hours than I've eaten in the last 72 weeks. So I need to get back on a treadmill tomorrow, I reckon.
I tell you can't beat a good quality street. What's your favourite sweet, mate?
Oh, mate, it's got to be a toffee penny, I think.
Oh, you like a penny, do you?
I
like the old strawberry.
Yeah, strawberry cream, mate.
Yeah, can't beat a strawberry creamy, mate. But yeah, well, we certainly wouldn't be battling over that one.
Absolutely not. Yeah, you can have all those you like. Yeah. Right, what we got?
Right, so firstly, before we go into it, just want to say good evening. Good evening to BX Gunner, who's in the house. Good evening to Andrew Mayer. Good evening to Kermit's middle finger, Ribbit. So good to see you all, guys. This look back to the game against Bayern Munich, which actually seems a while ago now, don't it? But it was actually last Wednesday night, mate. Going into that game, obviously on the back of a comprehensive Tottenham win. How was you feeling going into that night against Bayern Munich?
I mean, I think with any North London derby, it takes a truckload out of you, even when it was as comprehensive win as it was, and that was. I've had a bit of time to reflect on that, and I cannot remember a North London derby where I think we've been as cosy as that. So I think they've done us a massive favour going into the rest of the week when we've got 3 days later Bayern, 3 days after that Chelsea, and then. As we know, just with the way football works in the UK in December, it's just an absolute festivity of football. You know, I think we've got 9 fixtures in December across 31 days, which is just bonkers. Great for us as fans because it just feels like we're always watching the Arsenal. But I can't imagine it's much fun as a player or a coach or anybody involved in the procurement of the side. So. I felt confident going into it, but I felt like it was Liverpool game aside going to be our biggest test of the season. You know, they were in just mad form. We've got they're a bit of a sticking point for us, Bayern. You know, if there's anything kind of under Arsenal's reign that has got a bit of a dark cloud over it, it's his performances against Bayern Munich. And I've been to the Allianz and watched just get trumped up, and then I've been to Emirates and watched just get trumped up. Yeah. So I also was at the Allianz when we managed to draw them 1-1, and I think Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain probably had his best game at Arsenal. He was phenomenal that night. We went into it lively. We went into it off the back of a great win, and I think it was our best display of the season, Smuggsy. Really, with the level of the opposition and with the intensity that they brought, we had to diversify our game. There was just monumental performances across the pitch, and I was so impressed with the Arsenal on the Wednesday night.
No, it's quite interesting to say about obviously the level of performance. Obviously the first 20 minutes was quite conservative for us, wasn't it? In terms of just getting into the game, I thought scored when we probably didn't expect to score. It's weirdly I say that because it was a set piece that we did score it.
Yeah.
Their equaliser, absolutely incredible. And I'm going to be first to say, mate, you called out Leonard Carl on the previous week's show. If you don't believe us, guys, go back to the previous week's show where Jimbo does call him out to say that this young kid's going to be one of the next big things. And I thought he looked terrific on the night, by the way, from a Bayern Munich perspective. But yeah, that second half was as comprehensive as you like. I just loved the level that we went up a gear or two. Do you know what I mean? That second half, and they just couldn't live with us, could they? And it was a matter of when that second goal was going to go in, and it did take a little bit of time for it to go in. But I felt he made some brave decisions in terms of taking Saka off. I'll go into that conversation a little bit later with the Chelsea game, but I thought it was a brave decision, but a right decision, and we within a minute after.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, there's a couple of things that I think are really good talking points that are kind of just outside of our normal match analysis. Saka's definitely one of them, and we should have a brief conversation on him. I'm actually really interested to speak to you about Saka tonight. And Declan Rice is the other, who I think is probably starting to get a significant amount of airtime now in regards to the way he's spoken about on all the major outlets and in sort of what we would call the YouTube analysis now. But I think Declan Rice has very subtly been growing into his role at Arsenal across the last year and a half. And as probably, if you remember, like what the great managers like a Ferguson or a Wenger, they would always used to say that, one of the best attributes is availability. And he just constantly, I can't think of a period really where he's been out injured for longer than a game or where he's potentially been rested, like the Forest game, other than the only period that he had out was after that really controversial red card with Brighton. But I can't remember a period where he doesn't make himself fit and available, which is mad, really, when you think about the work rate that he he's a Trojan on the pitch. And that Wednesday night, I thought was a landmark sort of performance for Declan Rice. They were very, very physical, very technical side, very, very accomplished in the midfield Bayern. And that second half was just nothing short of just like an elite level world-class display. He just got everything in his game, Smugs, like his defensive work, the way in which he sees off the passing lines. I mean, the work that Zubimendi and Rice did was monumental into just shutting Kane completely out of the game. He just didn't get a kick. It's a player who's got 29, 30 goals for club and country this season, didn't get a shot in the game. That is elite level coaching and elite level playing to be able to shut off their single biggest asset and sort of limit them really to one counter attack, which led to a goal, with the Carl goal with the Gnabry and the Kimmich pass. So Rice was phenomenal. I thought that one thing that led to something that was very good, which has been, and you called this early, mate, when we had a beer in London a month or two ago about the rise and rise of Calafiori this season. But obviously Lewis Skelly started the game, struggled a bit, to deal with their wingers, who were top players. But when Calafiori come on, I felt like he just gave us that edge. And obviously his first movement was just intrinsic to getting that second goal. And also really good for Madueke to open his account for the Arsenal as well, mate. Like he must have been desperate to get a goal or assist, and then to get it at home against Bayern was massive.
Yeah, it was a massive moment for him, wasn't it? Like obviously he's been out for a while, comes back in, gets on the pitch, comes in at left wing, but then moves out to right wing and automatically gets that goal straight away, which hopefully will do his confidence well good moving forwards. So that really did please me, to be fair, and I just felt that once we got that second goal, there was never ever doubt that we was going to go on and kind of finalise that game. Do you know what I mean? Which obviously we did. And And I just felt it was a really, really comprehensive second half performance. Do you know what I mean? I just felt that we was in total control. I felt that we was more in control, right? Which strangely in that game than the game against Real Madrid in that second half. I just felt it was a different level. I don't know what you think. Like I felt against Real Madrid, I felt that there were incredible Declan Rice moments. Do you know what I mean? But I didn't feel that we had the complete control like we did against Bayern Munich.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of similarities in the opposition and the way in which we respected the opposition and shut down their outlets. But I would agree. I felt like, but I think we've gone up another level, mate, in regards to the people on the pitch.
Yeah.
You know, when you can bring players like Odegaard on, you know, because like someone like Eze, and I thought Eze was standout against Munich. I mean, obviously he's off the back of just, you know, having his best game in an Arsenal shirt, which was against our biggest rivals at home in a North London derby. But, you know, he was. I felt like he. I don't know if you know the first couple of games in the Champions League, Smugs. He's looked like he struggled to just like raise his level. I don't know whether it's playing every 3 or 4 days because he's not really previously done that at Palace, with all due respect, or you know, or just the kind of, you know, the momentous occasion is the Champions League, and it's just taken him a little while in order to be able to get to that level. But it felt like it really clicked for him on that night. He looked so composed on the ball. He received it in these tight areas, like, you know, just the little nutmeg and the chance early on as well. Like, you know, it's just these little glimpses that you can't expect from Eze, like for him to produce for 90 minutes. I think he's going to be a player actually that will frustrate a lot of fans, because number 10s or creators, you're hoping for 3 to 5 moments a match, which will probably lead to like an 8 or 9 out of 10 display if they can create those amount of moments. Yeah, they can just go flat. But he is now having that effect on a game. And then the ball at the end for Martinelli, I think is going to go under the radar. But that is an inch perfect pass. That pass was so good that Martinelli could have a pretty bang average touch. And even you see with Neuer, he tries to foul Martinelli because he goes round, the ball goes one way around him, he goes the other way around him, and he just completely 2-foots him. But that ball takes every single Bayern Munich defender out of play. It's so good. And I was really happy that he affected the game he did, the game the way he did. And I thought actually that when Madueke went over to the right-hand side, we got another indication of the fact that we're really well stocked there if Saka's not producing, which is something I want to talk about, to be honest, because I think he might be hiding behind his numbers a little bit at the moment. But we'll maybe talk about that when we do the Chelsea game.
Yeah, no, it did end up being a pretty comprehensive, and it was a scoreline that was totally deserved at the end of the day, and it was a massive statement made. Yet again, that, do you know what? The best are going to come to the Emirates, and they're not going to walk away with much, because this is what we're capable of doing, and we have shown it now against both Bayern Munich and Real Madrid, which this be arguably like 2 of the top three sides in the world like ever. Do you know what I mean? So, like the name's not phasing us no more. Do you know what I mean? It's quite interesting. You said back in the days of like when in the Wenger days, especially with the Bayern Munichs, when we turned up there, we knew we was going to lose him before we went on the pitch. That's how it got, didn't it? At the back end of our Champions League reign, especially to the likes of Munich and Barcelona. But I just feel now that actually that the team is ready, and the team is at a level where actually they can give it a good go to at least minimal get to another semi-finals. But do you know what I mean? Because look, we have to be we've got to be realistic about things. Do you know what I mean? Like when you're going for a league and going for a Champions League, if we're still in both going into March, April, that's going to be incredible. First of all, but at the second stage, these sides that are going to be competing in the quarterfinals, semi-final, finals are going to be absolute top level, and it's going to take obviously a lot of incredible performances to get to another semi-finals. But I'm more than sure that we're capable of doing that. I'm even more than sure that we can get to a final. But what I do want to say is, and one thing that is really, really starting to worry me, Jim, is the level of injuries that we're picking up all the time, mate. Like, obviously, Gabriel we lost him in the international break, which we discussed last week. But then to hear the news on Sunday that Saliba was out as well, was a massive blow, I thought, on Sunday. And do you know what? Yeah, right. Reflecting back, it was always going to be a hard task for Hincapié and Mosquera, who've never played with each other before on a pitch. And you're going away to, like you said, a team that's banging form, just beat Barcelona 3-0. Their wings are up. Do you know what I mean? So even though when I watched the game, I weren't really comfortable whatsoever. Actually, for them to just concede one goal and come out of that, like not losing the game from the centre back partnership, I thought was pretty good going. But these two guys in Saliba and Gabriel, like, are just different level, aren't they? Like, I honestly believe if we have Saliba and Gabriel on Sunday, and this is something I want to say to you, I think we win the game, mate. I honestly think we win the game, mate. And like, I just look at the antics, like what Enzo did to Madueke, and like, if Gabriel had been on the pitch where he did that, he wouldn't be getting away with doing that. Do you know what I mean? He wouldn't be getting away with doing what he's doing. And I just felt that we lost a bit of our spine. Do you know what I mean? A bit of our fight, a bit of the nasty side to us on Sunday without players like Gabriel in that team.
Yeah, I mean, look, they're both huge figureheads. I think Gabriel actually gives Saliba just a lot of edge. You know, he's the commander at the back. He's the captain of the back four. If he's not, amongst being a leader on the pitch, and that was a brave call from Arteta. From again, because obviously someone like Saliba, they're saying that he's potentially available tomorrow night. So he's pretty fit if he's only missing a couple of days. Is it something he could do under an injection or whatever? But obviously they're saying now it's the same ankle, and they risked him against Liverpool when he came off after 3 minutes, and they don't want to risk it this early on the season. They're thinking, we're very binary as fans, and we're just very in the moment in the game, and then go game to game. He's obviously looking at the schedule ahead and thinking, fuck, I've still got another 45 games here, so got to rotate. If we're moving on to the Chelsea game, Smugs, let's kind of just move on to the Chelsea game, because I think there's probably a lot more to say about that, because we can cover off a lot of the things that were maybe slightly concerning. It was probably like Timber's most average game for Arsenal as well, in recent weeks and months, and he's completely overdue one with just the level of output that he's had. I can't think for how long he's had a sort of 8 or 9 out of 10s every week sort of thing. But they came to us with a bit of a flat track bully style, to your point, with Saliba and Gabriel, and they were going to do that anyway, because I don't think they just flipped their style that they're coming into the game with, like an hour before kickoff when we all find out that Saliba's not available.
Oh no, they're coming in to do it,
and I was quite disappointed how rolled over we got with that strategy, and that we've had this weak belly mentality at Arsenal, which we've been unable to shake for years beyond Arteta. This isn't like an Arteta thing. This is an Arsenal thing. And they've come in with this sort of almost like Mourinho-esque sort of style with, like, going into tackles with excessive forces. Excessive force is maybe a bit strong, but with an increased intensity is probably the right way to say it. But then also, like, when we've matched them in the tackle, they're running over to Anthony Taylor and going full pantomime and saying, I counted 6 times, I think, when they've got in and said elbows are up. I've never seen anything like it, like with the whole elbow up thing. And they've completely, Arteta mentioned it in his interview and he was bang on, but they've completely isolated any fluidity in the game by making it stop, start. And it took Eze out the game. It completely took Eze out the game. And allowed us very short periods where we were in control of the football and could control the momentum and the possession of the football, which was a good tactic. What I didn't like in that instance was that there was two really notable things on Sunday, and I don't think it's a bad point, and I'm not going to go like full on negative, but there's two, like, from playing a reasonably good standard of football myself, and you know, and going through kind of school football and having some good coaches and whatever. There were two non-negotiables always that you're taught from coaches, and that is not competing for your second balls and backing out of tackles or going into them half-heartedly, right? And I just thought, when they brought the fight to us, there was nobody there that went and matched them and sort of, you know, I know there was that tackle at the end where Hincapi, you know, gets back and he makes a tackle on Neto, and then he stands up and kind of gets in his face a little bit. But I'm sort of like, you know, with Marino, who's going to play this role in the 9, which mate, I'll just say it, right, on the periphery, I don't like Marino playing in that role. He finds a way of being incredibly efficient in sort of getting his numbers from that position, but I think, like, the role is so, in modern day football, the role is so much more than that now. Like, with him in the false 9, we completely just fall out of our shape to play in the high press with the mid block. So, because you don't go and press the centre half. And I just looked at that, and they had, like, who do they have? Chalobah and Fofana and Sanchez. Sanchez, I think, is one of the weakest goalkeepers in the league under pressure with the ball at feet. And we miss Gyökeres so much, where he would have just bulldozed like through, like, he wouldn't have given them no time on the ball in a back three. And Marino he actually deflects and drops back into the midfield and overloads the midfield. So to allow, like, you know, for the first 25 minutes, Caicedo and James to dictate the play when you've got Rice, Zubimendi, Eze and Marino dropping in there, I think's poor. And then when they get Caicedo sent off, which was the best decision the referee made in the game, and the VAR, by the way, that's kind of complete. That was just a complete example of why VAR is good, because the referee had missed it on field, and then they'd gone back and made the right decision. And then, you know, people can be upset about it, but Marino nutmegs him and he goes above the ankle. It's excessive force. It's a red card, unfortunately, in today's day and game. But when they've got another man there, and Maresca rolled the dice and didn't actually take an attacker off and bring another defensive-minded player on, you're like, you can't lose your midfield battles. And we didn't go up for anything and win the battles or pick up any of the second balls. That I was screaming at the telly, mate, like, second balls. Like, what? How are we not going and creating the overload in there and turning the ball over and getting an option to get on them? And we didn't press the back four. And we didn't go and win any of those battles. Reece James had a fantastic game, but we've kind of let him have a really good game. What did you think?
Yeah, I thought it was a really, really disappointing performance, if you like. If you want me to be totally honest, yeah. I thought the first 15, 20 minutes were quite edgy from both teams. Do you know what I mean? I didn't think no one really settled in, but I think that was because a lot of factors. I think the Zubimendi booking straight away put us on the back foot.
And Mosquera, like, so just, sorry, mate, let me bring you backwards. So you just made a really good point. The first 15, 20 minutes was really edgy. And I think that was probably the most anxious we felt, having a brand new centre half pairing on the pitch. Like, I think Hincapi really grew into the game. I think that game exposed Mosquera a little bit, you know, because they play with a really high intensity and they put the ball on us, and you know, his distribution, he kept trying to find a line breaking pass at pace into the midfield, and then they came up on the press, and none of our, like, Marino doesn't want to receive his ball with a back to goal. Eze wants to play on the half turn on the flank, not through the middle.
Yeah.
So he's firing these balls into the midfield, and they're just turning the ball over and over and over and over again. He keeps doing it, and obviously with Saliba, he plays the out ball out to Timber. And then if Timber can't get the ball off to Saka, he pops the ball over into Zubimendi, or Zubimendi drops in, and then he drops the ball back to Saliba, and then Saliba rotates the ball across. He was almost distributing the ball like he was, like, trying to get rid of it because he was so conscientious of, like, his shape. So we never built anything out of the back, you know. And Calafiori, Mosquera, Zubimendi all got kind of, like, suckered in to this this game that Chelsea wanted to play, all got on yellows early, and like we fucked ourselves, you know. Like, but you know, do you know what I mean? Though the first 20 minutes, you're right, they were proper edgy, and like we proper took the bait. Do you not think?
Yeah, no, I totally do believe that. I thought we was really sluggish in terms of the bookings that we got. Like, look at the Calafiori one; it's just him being so slow running across the midfield, and you're looking, and you just think, why are you getting booked in this situation? You're not even in your position. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not like you've taken a winger down that's gone past you, which I could kind of expect. It's because actually you've tried to run with a ball across our centre midfield, and he just seems so lethargic and slow with it as well. Do you know what I mean? And I just felt that was an absolute shocking booking to pick up. Obviously, the Subimendi one, I think, didn't help us whatsoever because it was really early on. And you could sense within the first 10, 15 minutes that, and I think I might have messaged you, didn't I? I did message you. And I went, there's definitely a red card in this game. And to be honest, I'm surprised how we didn't get one, to be fair, because in that first 15 minutes, I'm thinking, we're getting a red here. Somewhere along the line, we're getting a red here. Obviously, it was Casado who got it, and for me, totally deserved it. Because for me, it is a red card. Whether that would have not been a red 20 years ago is not a discussion whatsoever. We're talking about the here and now, so that was definitely a red. But I just felt, mate, like we made the wrong decision time and time again. I thought Eze was very poor. I thought he was very poor on Sunday. I was really surprised how poor he was as well. I thought Mosquera and Hincapié. Mosquera was very, very, like you said, sluggish at the start. I think he was very nervous. You could see, like, and I do get it from Mosquera and Hincapié's point of view. Like, first game together, you're going to Stamford Bridge, like major London rivals. Both, let's be honest, we both hate each other.
Probably a language barrier as well. You know, I don't know what. I'm not sure what the native language is in Ecuador. I'd have to check it. It might be Spanish, but I bet there's a pretty tough language barrier. I mean, the back four never played together. The back four never played with each other before.
I think that was a big ask for them too. I thought that was a big ask, and you don't think about it during the game. But when I come out after the game after, and thought, do you know what? Right, that could have been much worse, and it shouldn't be that way because they were down to 10 men. But actually, I think them two centre backs, obviously being chucked in, had a bit of a derailment across the rest of the team. I think,
mate, just as an idea here, yeah. Sorry, and I'm just interjecting, right? Just looking back on this, like, because this is a game where I definitely feel like I'm not going to dwell on it and think that it was a massive blowout. But like, from a managerial perspective, like, what could he have done better? So let me just throw this out at you, because one of the things, you know how much of a Ben White fan I am. And I don't know what this kid's got to do to get in this team at the moment. He can't not be fit because he's just not playing, right? So, but, you know, in a scenario like that, where you're going away to Chelsea, they're in a really good moment. Like you said, they just smashed Barcelona 3-0. They're arguably one of the top sides in the world, right? Why is he, you know, Timber is a centre-half by trade and still plays there for his country. Ben White, you probably could say, has been managed out of being a centre-half because he plays as a fullback. Why would you not lift Timber into right centre-half to command the back four, play with Hincapié, and play White at right back? You know, why expose Mosquera to it?
Well, here's my argument as well, right? I totally get what you're saying here, but what I would have done at half-time, if he was bringing Calafiori off, was push Timber to left back and put Ben White to right back. Like, I just felt, right, for the type of game it was, right? And especially after Skelly's performance on Wednesday night, where I thought I said to you after the game, like, it was a big game for him because Michael Elise is one of the best wingers in world football at the moment. You know what I mean? But I didn't feel Skelly was the right person to bring on in that game. Like, for me, Arteta should have brought Ben White on at halftime. He should have switched Timber to left back, played Ben White to right back. And let's just remember, last year, Ben White and Timber played right back and left back at the start of the last season. We weren't conceding any goals. We weren't conceding any goals. So, do you know what I mean? Like, I am very surprised that Ben White was not used whatsoever. I don't think it bodes well at the moment for Ben White, if I'm being totally honest. That he's not even going to him, especially in a game like that he decided to go for Skelly. I know it's a natural replacement, Skelly for Calafiori, but I just felt the magnitude of the game, Skelly's performance on Wednesday night, I just felt that Ben White would have been a better option.
He could have still used Skelly and then kind of gone into like off the ball. He could have gone to a back five, and then on the ball he could have played in a four and brought Skelly on for Zubimendi. So you got him in the midfield, which is kind of his most natural position, and then still use White, Timber, Hincapi, and Calafiori or Mosquera across the back four. I think Ben White, who is a shithouse, he's probably the best shithouse at Arsenal. I think he would have dealt a lot better with the intensity and the aggression that Chelsea were trying to bring to the game as well. He would have thrived on it. And I want to just, Smuggs, I want to just get on to Saka, right? Because I've got to say, since he's come back from his injury, which he had last year, it felt like we rushed him back for Madrid. He has not been the same player since. And I've been in game, I've been quite underwhelmed with him. Yes, he made a great delivery for Timber's goal against Bayern Munich. He put a fantastic cross in for Marino's header, but he is having like singular moments in games of quality, and he is not taking control of games. I thought he was very poor against Burnley, where I think Gyökeres probably put him in for a first half hat trick, and he didn't convert anything. I think he was missing a little bit in the Newcastle game. I don't think I think out of an incredible performance against Bayern Munich, I thought he was probably one of the weakest performers in that game, and was probably, we were all shocked by it, was probably rightly subbed. And, yes, his corner delivery and dead ball delivery has been good and has actually got better this season, and is kind of competitive with Rice's from the other side. But that for me, for the wages that he's about to be announced on, and for the stature of player that he is at the football club, is not enough. He has to affect games more. And, Gyökeres this season has given him the opportunity to get in the one-on-one considerably more. But let me just ask you a question, because I've mentioned this to you before, and I've said to you that I think in his best moments, Ben White has a much better chemistry in the attacking moments with Saka than Timber does, because Ben White naturally goes into the two, inverts, pulls out, and takes the fullback and goes outside and pulls a man away from Saka. Now, Saka's got Odegaard back fit now, and Odegaard will start playing more games. And Odegaard actually affected the game really well against Chelsea when he came on. He got into much better pockets and was trying things and had some good moments. But I don't know whether it's Timber that's making it happen, but what's your opinion on Saka? Because I think his numbers at the moment look like he's having a fairly good season, but I think he's been in a pretty poor run of form for weeks and months, if you ask me, from the levels that I know he can produce and expect from him.
Yeah, look, Saka's an absolute fabulous player, do you know what I mean, first and foremost. And there's a but in this. But his performances are nowhere near where they were before that injury. I felt on Sunday he had the good moment when he got the assist for the goal. But he frustrated the hell out of me on Sunday, if I'm being totally honest. I thought
he made some really poor decisions on Sunday.
Yeah, it was his decision making on Sunday, and I felt that he tried to a little bit. And tell me if you think I'm wrong. He tried to be the hero a little bit at times. With certain shots and all that, and that's not Saka for me. Do you know what I mean? Whatsoever. And I don't know. I just feel that at the moment we're waiting for him to come back to that level we've expected him before, but it's not happened. And I keep thinking it's going to come. It's going to come. And at the moment, it's not to the level where we expect it to be. I'm reading some interesting points in here that. In the comments of the chats that people like, obviously Beart's Gunner saying that he feels he's gone stale on the right a little bit, would maybe moving him to the left. Would that do anything, or moving him centrally?
No,
I'm not sure. I'm not sure about centrally personally, because I think that we got our central base covered in all angles. I do think that he needs to be on the right, but it's interesting that actually the performances of Saka with Timber has not been to the same level as Ben White. And like you said, with Ben White, he would make the overlap, wouldn't he? And drag people out, where Timber doesn't do that whatsoever. He will do it like on certain times of the game, but not to the relentlessness of how Ben White would have done it. So I do think that is a slight issue. I think Odegaard not being in the team as well, I think that's another big factor.
Yeah.
I think Odegaard is a massive factor for Saka's form. And if you noticed, even on Sunday, Odegaard gets on the pitch, Saka's on the ball a lot more already in that second half. So I think Odegaard's the other factor as well. So I think them two players, Ben White and Odegaard, were a massive piece in terms of Saka's development on that right wing and the way he was producing his numbers and his figures, but also the performances. Where actually, you're right, he's still collating the numbers, but he's not being as effective as he should do. That being said, he had enough opportunities on Sunday to do the right thing, and I did think. Overall, when you look at the 90 minutes of the game, I thought apart from the assist, it wasn't one of his best games whatsoever. And I'll give you a point.
When did he last have one of his games? Because I'm racking my brain. I'm not sure.
Sorry, can I say one thing before we do that?
Yeah.
The one thing that made me think on Sunday was the first shot he had in the first half. If you had Saka a year ago, the one he put straight, he basically put it at the goalkeeper, didn't he? Sanchez. It wasn't like Sanchez really had to work for it whatsoever, in my opinion.
No.
But I just felt that when he had that shot, I was like, that's not Saka. But that's not Saka. That's not the level of what Saka can produce. Do you know what I mean? And I'd expect him to do much, much, much better in that situation. And I would expect, like, the keeper, if he's going to keep that out of the net, he needs to absolutely work for it. So, last game that I can remember him playing incredibly well. Do you know what? The best game I've seen him play, right, since he's come back, was probably one of his first games, and that was against Real Madrid at home. I thought he was brilliant in that game. Like I thought he took lead in that game at the Emirates. But apart from that, I can't say that I can think of like the Saka of like the seasons gone by. Do you know what I mean? In terms of the performances and the way he plays. Do you know what I mean? And you look at it now, it's not even like that. Before they could stick 3 or 4 players on him. And look, there were certain aspects on Sunday when that does happen. Do you know what I mean? But it happens much less now because actually you've got a Trossard, you've got an Eze. Do you know what I mean? You've got a Gyökeres, and now you've got Saka. So they can't just obviously like double, triple up on him as they used to be able to. But I just feel that actually he's at a moment that he needs to. For us to win the league, I always think that actually Saka needs to get to that next level still. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I agree. And you just made a really good point, and it was resonating with me about how he probably used to play for the team a lot more, and the numbers came a lot more naturally. And then he's been feeling like he's been in this, like, I think you described it as hero mode. And I would probably tell you that the most kind of concrete thing that sticks in my mind around that was when Havertz started at Arsenal in 2023, he obviously had a pretty slow start, and we go to Bournemouth early on in the game as well, and Saka gives Havertz the ball, who slots the penalty in, and kind of unlocks Havertz, who since then has really just accelerated and kicked on at Arsenal, and really affected games quite regularly thereafter when he's been fit, and we do miss him. And then when Gyökeres was going through a similar spell where we then go and win a penalty, like the occasion's all about Saka. It's his 100th goal involvement and his 200th game, but that was the perfect opportunity where someone who's quite humble, knows their ability and knows the moment they're in, they're not really bothered that it's like a milestone appearance or anything. He gives the ball to Gyökeres then, the same way he gave it to Havertz, because Gyökeres had taken the last penalty for Arsenal. and converted it very well against Leeds. And then he takes the spot kick off him, So I agree with you. I think he has been in this kind of hero mode and made sure that he's carried on kind of keeping his numbers up. And I think actually the way he's played this season has probably been the most selfish that he has been in a period for Arsenal. And I just wonder whether or not, the new contract, he spent the lion's share of the season as captain, and all of that stuff is just coming to him a bit young, because I don't see him as an individual the way he does interviews and the way he holds himself. He seems like an incredibly humble kid and very, he's incredibly academic. For those that don't know, he's a straight A student, and I don't think he comes across to me as somebody who has that aura or personality to be a natural captain of a team now that just has innate amounts of quality all over it. Whereby, the way in which Declan Rice or Gabriel present themselves is just they just have a completely different vibe around them. And obviously Declan had a period in the game where he captained the Arsenal when Saka goes off, and he.
Oh, you still there, Jim? Not sure that we've lost him at the moment, so I'll just kind of continue on.
The man management skills of Arteta need to kind of really come to fruition, and he needs to get an arm around him and just kind of maybe re-humble him a little bit and just get him back in a better moment. Because I would argue that in periods, and this will be controversial, but I would argue in periods where Madueke's gone over to the right-hand side, we have created and looked far more deadly with him there than Saka in spells this season.
Yeah, I think it's a really good talking point and a really good topic. Do you know what I mean? At the moment, in terms of kind of where he kind of is at the moment, I don't know whether, as well, with the Madueke injury, have we kind of it's another testament of have we rushed him back again? Do you know what I mean? Before ahead of time, and I do feel that is the case a little bit. But I did feel on Sunday it was a little bit, and I love Saka, so I don't want to be sitting here kind of bad mouth him as such, but it was a little bit at times, a bit like Roy the Rovers. Do you know what I mean? He was. It was like he was trying to take it on himself a little bit, and I just felt that. Do you know what I mean? He doesn't need to do that. He doesn't need to do that whatsoever. That is not what's made him how special he is. And I am hoping with Odegaard coming back, and he will come back into the team. Odegaard, he's the captain. Do you know what I mean? Eze will go out onto the left, as we've discussed about a lot of times. I'm hoping that will get Saka back playing football that we know he can play and to the level he can play. And Odegaard is a massive factor in terms of Saka's form. And I think it's the other way around as well. I think sometimes when Saka hasn't been on the pitch, Odegaard struggled. Do you know what I mean? The connection is just absolutely incredible between the two of them. But you can't excuse the fact that actually Ben White was a massive part of that as well. And I would like to see Timber a little bit at times just be able to do that a little bit more at times, potentially. I think he's got the capability of doing it. That's the thing, Timber. It's not that he hasn't got the capability of doing it. He is. So he's obviously being asked not to do it. And I think probably one of the reasons why he's being asked not to do it is because Calafiori does it a lot down the other side.
Yeah, well, Calafiori kind of, I think has a lot more diversity to his game, and he does go beyond a lot more, and then he does also invert and come into the midfield, and he plays, and then he crashes into the box, and he must be a nightmare to mark or build a strategy against, because he is quite mysterious in the way in which he mixes his game up. He holds a touchline, he comes in field, he travels with the ball, he goes outside, he comes inside, and Calafiori really benefits from the diversity and the technical level that Trossard has in his game, because Trossard's very two-footed. He's very, very accomplished on the ball. He's very happy taking the ball in any positions, where Saka's quite one-dimensional a little bit in his game, but that's not a bad thing. So Salah, but like he's very, very, very good at what he does. And I think the way he does his game so well, you almost have to build a right side around all of Saka's strengths. But yeah, look, I won't let it consume the entirety of our conversation. I just want to see him.
Yeah.
I just want to see him raise it a bit. But I do agree with you. When we get into a Zubimendi Rice double pivot and an Odegaard in the kind of 8.5, and then you've got an Eze, Gyökeres, Saka front three, I think backs levels will just climb up and up and up and up. And I don't think it will matter really who's in the back five. If he's got that 6 around him or that 5 around him, his performances will come back. So, but it's just an interesting point. I just wanted to see what you felt, but take nothing away with the Chelsea game. We did struggle. I still felt like they had the upper hand when they had 10 men on the pitch, and I think for a fan that's really, really tough. But they say in football, 10 against 11 is the hardest thing to do, because they just find another gear and work extra hard to make sure that they prevent the overlap and never create it. And I've never seen Reece James play in this too. In the central midfield before, but fuck me, he was good. Really, really good. And he had a game, and it was just, mate. Look, end of the day, right? We've boxed off Anfield, Old Trafford, St James's Park, and Stamford Bridge, and we're still 4 points clear, 5 points clear. So we're still in a really, really good moment, and but we've got to carry on now. Going ahead to Brentford and then Villa, 2 games at home. Villa keep finding ways of winning now, and I think we've got 2 home games in a row, if I'm not mistaken. And we've got to just we've got to, just like we did against Sunderland, go straight into it and react against Brentford.
Yeah, obviously the Brentford game tomorrow is obviously going to be quite an important game in terms of, because these 2 fixtures come around fast, don't they? Like we've got Brentford tomorrow night at 7:30, and then you look at the Villa game at Villa Park on Saturday at 12:30 kickoff, and you think that's actually a massive quick turnaround again. And when I started looking at players, like I thought Declan Rice, especially going into that last 10 minutes, you could tell that we all know what Declan Rice puts into a game. That actually, like, you could tell that he there was a bit of tiredness there, and I think it's going to be interesting tomorrow how we treat that Brentford game, because Brentford are a side that have actually done a lot better than I thought they would do this year, considering when you think about the players they've lost, and you look at obviously new manager coming, who was unproven, but they're sitting mid-table. They've picked up some really, really good results. They've obviously beat some good teams this season so far. So it's not just a game where you can think, oh yeah, we're going to rest like 6 or 7 players. Do you know what I mean? And like we're at home and hunky-dory. I think it's a London derby again. It's going to be a tricky game, mate. Every game that I remember playing against Brentford, especially at home, has not been easy. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's always been a tough game. So even though we should get the 3 points tomorrow, I think it's going to be quite an interesting how he kind of reverts into that. And obviously looking back on Sunday's game and certain players' performances and all that, like, will he kind of shake it up a little bit? What I'm hoping tomorrow is that Odegaard comes back into the team tomorrow. And then he pushes Eze out into the left. I want to see that kind of happen. And I think it's an ideal time for it to happen at home, if I'm being totally honest. So I do want to see that happen. I expect the 2 centre-backs to be exactly the same again. Okay. I think I think there could be potential. We might see Ben White tomorrow night, though.
Yeah. All right. Well, look, let's like, if you assume, I mean, they're saying Saliba's got a training session today and a late fitness test, and there's kind of feelings that even if he was rested for this game, he might be named in the squad, but they think he'll be fit for Villa. But let's just roll the dice and say Saliba's not available, but then obviously all the players from the matchday squad that played against Chelsea are available, and now they've had some minutes. What would be your 11 tomorrow night?
I'll do something quiet, and I've not really mentioned it today. I'd probably put Ray in goal.
Yeah.
I'd play Ben White right back.
Yeah.
I'd play Mascara and Hincapie centre backs.
Yeah.
I'd consider playing Timber at left back tomorrow night.
Okay.
Just because obviously I don't know where Calafiori is, but yeah, it depends because there's that feeling with Calafiori that he can't play. He doesn't play, does he? Like if he plays on a midweek or weekend game, he'll only be on the bench in midweek. So that'd be kind of interesting what he does with Calafiori tomorrow, whether he starts him or not. So just say he didn't start him. That's what I'd potentially go with tomorrow. But if he wants to rest Timber, which I totally get as well, I'd rest Timber, then rest Timber and play Calafiori left back. So whatever happens, Ben White, Mascara, Hincapié, and then whoever on the left back. I wouldn't play Skelly at the moment, and we'll go into that topic a little bit soon. Midfield, I think Subamendi has to play because actually he come off, so you would expect him to be like fully ready for it. Odegaard definitely on the right. I think you have to start Declan. I think you have to start Declan and actually hope after about 50, 60 minutes that we've got the game done and dusted and then take him off. I don't like, I listen to people go, oh yeah, I'll probably rest him tomorrow night, but I think get the game done. Do you know what I mean? Get the game done and then bring him off. Because you've got to worry about this game. There's no point thinking about Aston Villa because actually that's the game's time. We need to win tomorrow night, first and foremost. You know what I mean? So I'd start Declan Rice there. I'd put Eze in the left, Saka. I'd play, you got to play Saka on the right still. There could be a temptation to play Madueke, but I think you've got to play Saka on the right and Gorkarez up top.
Yeah, I'm similar. One of Rice or Saka has to start because no, actually they don't because Odegaard will be there to captain the side. So I'm going to go Raya, White at right back. I'm going to play Timber at centre half with Hincapié, Calafiori at left back because he come off as well after 55 minutes. So he should be fit. To your point, he should be refreshed. I'm going to play I'm going to play Zubimendi in the 6, Marino in the 8, and rest Declan.
Yeah.
Odegaard in the 10, and then Eze, Gyökeres, and I'm going to start Madueke right wing, and then I'll have Saka, Rice, Jesus, Martinelli, and Nwaneri as kind of attacking options with Mascara and Norgard and Lewis Skelly as sort of defensive options.
Mate, again, it wouldn't surprise me whatsoever. I think there is legs to kind of rest Declan. I think I can't see him resting Declan and Saka personally.
Yeah.
I think if he rests anyone, I think it probably.
I've got a feeling as well that Saliba's going to make the game. I've got a feeling Saliba's going to make the game. I don't know why. I just think he might make the game.
If Saliba makes the game, you got to play him. Do you know what I mean? Like, I know it's like if he's fit, he's fit. Do you know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, like I don't want to be looking at Aston Villa at the moment, mate, because like when you start doing that, that's when you start dropping points. Do you know what I mean? You start focusing on the wrong thing. We need to focus on the game in hand. And as I said, Brentford are not a team that are not informed. Do you know what I mean? Brentford are a team that are capable.
Oh, absolutely. And also, like, mate, Thiago, everyone's gone on about Ireland, about how good a start to the season he's had. Thiago scored 11 goals in the Prem. You know, he's just going under the radar. Like, this is a guy banging form, you know. The lad they bought from Bournemouth is starting to find a bit of a moment. They've got a guy in the middle of the park. His name evades me. Who when I've watched Brentford, he's proper tricky customer. You know, so you know, I'm looking at them, mate, and thinking, you know, they're a really decent side, Brentford. You know, and the manager's solid. Damsgaard, thank you to one of our followers who's just messaged me that. Damsgaard, and you know they've got this lad as well in the back line who's very good in the long throw as well, and I just think it just needs Kevin Sharder was the other one I was thinking of, mate. He's been in a really good moment for him, so Yeah, it's not. Mate, there's no easy game, Smugs, in the Prem now. Do you know what I mean?
Mate,
Do you know what I mean? If you're just not quite at it and you don't get out of first or second gear, but they're going to go in there. It's going to be more of a normal home ground. They're not going to have all of the allure of the kind of pyrotechnics and the red and white smokes, and like they did on the Champions League night where they lifted it for the fans. The fans are going to have to go in there and do a proper job, and bring them back to life, and we're going to have to raise it. So I think it's a really good game to bring Gyökeres back into. I think both their centre halves aren't overly mobile, but they're quite physical, and he'll enjoy that. I think we could potentially give Declan a rest and let Marino play in the 8, but he's played a lot of football recently as well. So it's going to be a tough. It's going to be a tough. There's no easy game. It's going to be a tough game.
No, it's definitely going to be a tough game. When you look at the Leeds game against Man City on Saturday, that just kind of shows you if you start dropping your level, do you know what I mean? Like these teams that are in the Premier League, whether they're first, second, third in the league, or whether they're 18th, 19th, 20th, like they're gonna give you a go. Do you know what I mean? And look, at the moment we're a team that everyone wants to strive to beat. Do you know what I mean? Like you see it on social media, you see it within fan bases, you see it within Chelsea's performance the other night. So we are going to need to be at the level tomorrow. And I think, do you know what? In some ways, walking off that pitch on Sunday, you could see the disappointment in the players' faces. They knew. Obviously, they had not hit the level that they should have done, and they knew that. Obviously, not going on and winning that game obviously would raise some questions and across obviously the media and that kind of stuff. But I think this is the perfect game. Do you know what I mean? Like, at least you haven't got to wait till the weekend to kind of rectify it. Do you know what I mean? Like, for 2-3 days, bang, there's another game for you. Go out there, do what you did against Bayern Munich, get the win, and then we go in more confident into the Aston Villa game. But obviously, looking into the Aston Villa game as well, like you rightly said, they're a team that are banging form as well at the moment. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're looking at another game here, and I think it's gone under the radar. Everyone's sitting there going, "Oh yeah, they've got away. They've played all their hardest games and all that." But then I look at it and think, well, Aston Villa are fourth in the Premier League at the moment. Do you know what I mean? Like,
this is level on points with Chelsea, if not one behind them. Do you know what I mean?
This is going to be a tough game on Saturday. Do you know what I mean? Like,
mate,
it's another 100%.
And also, Emery's got a fucking phenomenal record against Arteta. He has properly been a bogey against him, and they've made quite seismic dents into us at really, really, really intrinsic times when we needed a result, and they've come there and got a result against us. And even when we've beaten them, it's been like last minute winners. When one went off Martinez's back, where Jorginho sticks it in last minute, we beat him 3-2. But done us a couple of 0, done us 3-0. Watkins is luckily bang out of form, but he normally finds a moment against us. They've got ridiculous attacking options, like on and off the bench. Like bringing players like Rodgers, Milan, Buendia. Just got all these Sancho now on the bench. They've just got all these attacking options there. So mate, they're and they've had a solid back five now for quite a considerable period of time. Cash is a really, really accomplished player. Konsa, Pau Torres has been there for a while. They've got a couple of different options at left back. Martinez, as we know. So, mate, that's going to be a proper tricky game. We haven't really we haven't got anyone like what you would say is like a proper Super Sunday, like a big clash. But we've got loads of really pernickety, awkward games.
I was looking at them. Yeah, I was looking at the away games between now and the end of the season, mate. You look at them all, right? And you think tricky. But then I sat there and thought, well, that's exactly the same for everyone else. Like, don't get me wrong, we have got rid of Old Trafford, we have got rid of Anfield, we have got rid of St James's Park, we have got rid of Stamford Bridge. We will get rid of Villa Park. Do you know what I mean? By Saturday, so like that's actually like, do you know what I mean? You're looking at 5 out of the probably 8 biggest teams we've got rid of at the moment. But and that's positive news. But you look at the games and you think, do you know what? Like you said, the level of this Premier League, right? Nothing is a gimme, mate. Like you're talking about your Brightons, your Crystal Palaces. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like these games, they come round and you're not guaranteed to win absolutely anything away from home. And this is the piece, right? That I actually think that reflecting on, like, it's very easy in the moment. I think you said earlier on, in the moment, you'll go away and you think, do you know what? That's 2 points dropped on Sunday. But we might in a couple of months' time, look at this game. We might even look at it in a couple of weeks' time, depending on where results are from. We think, actually, getting that point at Chelsea is actually 1 point gained.
Yeah. No. Well, look, the difference was not letting them get 3 points on us and then getting a real sniff like they're in a title challenge. Like, we've kept 6 points between them. We've still got 5 points between City, and City haven't completely, got into their moment yet, because they've had to go into the last minute and get a winner against Leeds and etc. So there's just been a few shaky moments for City, and then Ireland's not scored in 3 or 4 now as well, and his little purple patch has kind of just flattened out or whatever have you. Yeah, but we play Villa twice in December, mate. So. And probably the only dead rubber, maybe just on current form, would be the fact we got Wolves at home in a couple of weeks, and they can't buy a win at the moment. So the only thing we got there is we hope that they just don't sack the manager, in the next week or two. So they give a new manager a January transfer window, and you get new manager syndrome, and they come and find a level against us or whatever, which would be just our luck. But it's been inevitable that it probably will happen. Clip that. But so we just we just got to go through it. But we've got loads of good options. He's assembled a really good squad. We're continually getting players back. Kai's on his way back. Gabriel's on his way back. Gyökeres is back in the team now. Probably should have scored the winner Sunday if Timber don't take it off his head. We didn't even mention that.
Nah.
And Jesus is back in the matchday squads as well. We still got players like Dowman who are like clucking at the bit to get minutes, and Nwaneri. Mate, you mentioned about you wanted to bring up Miles Lewis-Skelly. Did you want to do a little piece on him?
I was really disappointed with him Sunday, if I'm being totally honest with you. I'll be honest, I was very disappointed with him. I personally would have brought him on Sunday. I said that already. I think after his performance at Bayern Munich, I felt that, do you know what? I thought it'd been the right time just to leave him out there. I think Ben would have been the better option to bring in and move Timber over if he wanted to do that on Sunday. And I think that's something that the manager potentially could look at and think, yeah, maybe I should have done that. I wonder, like, whether a loan move might be a good thing for Lewis-Skelly in January. I don't know whether the club would entertain that at the moment. But when you start thinking about World Cup here, look, he's got into the England squad, so his head is going to be turned a little bit, and he does want to be part of that World Cup squad. Look, Lewis-Skelly is going to be an absolutely incredible player for us in the future. But I felt he got thrown out there on Sunday. And like, to be fair, Arteta probably thought, well, they're down to 10 men. Do you know what I mean? Like, Arteta would have expected much better from that team in the second half, by the way. But I just feel with Lewis-Skelly at the moment, I just feel defensively, and I said this before, like, the difference between now and last season is, right, that Mikel Arteta has to get over the line this year. He has to get over the line this year. So he has to make sure that he brings a trophy into the club. I just feel with players like Lewis-Skelly, especially in the position he's in, and he wasn't a natural left back as it is, right? I just feel that he's going to cost you. He is going to cost you at some point. And I don't feel Arteta's got that in his bank at the moment to allow him to do that. And I just wonder at the moment with Skelly, to get him back playing, would a loan move be good for him in January? It could be said about one area a little bit. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. I just don't feel that actually at the moment that we can afford to continue to be throwing Skelly into them kind of situations, like especially in big games like that. And I do feel a bit rotten saying that, because actually I think, like, obviously what he's produced and what he's done over the last 12 months has been absolutely incredible. Like, if you look at it when he came against Liverpool at home last year, no one would have felt at that point that his career would have blossomed like it did. But I just feel like when you're not playing minutes and you're sitting on the bench and you're at his age and you're coming on in games, and then the size of the games that he's had playing in the last 2 games,
I
feel that they've just dwarfed him a little bit.
Yeah, look, I would agree, and I would probably say that he's just playing with a little bit, probably because he knows all the things that you've just mentioned. Signed his new contract as well.
Yeah.
There was a big hype and hysteria around him in the summer. He's gone on and broken into the England team, then he's come out of it. Tuchel's kind of been quite ruthless the way he's managed that situation. And there's other players in pretty good moments as well at the moment, like a Lewis Hall, for instance, who just seems to be going from strength to strength and probably fancies his chances of going to England in the summer at the moment. I imagine he's playing with a little bit of nervousness, and to the points that you've just made, I think he's probably playing with a bit of fear in his game, that he's worried about making a cardinal mistake as well. And whereby someone like Calafiori, who's quite for his age, or just a couple of years older than Lewis Skelly, which is massive in football terms, and someone who's a regular international for Italy, he just doesn't really play with that fear. His instincts are kind of very, very sharp at the moment. But the only thing for Lewis Skelly is that if you look at somebody like a Milner who's cut out like a 20-year career.
Yeah.
And can pretty much play in any position on the pitch, like the ultimate Swiss Army knife footballer, really. Lewis Skelly's being asked to kind of do that as an 18-year-old, and it's a tough ask. When someone like Milner probably played centre midfield for like a decade before. Oh, can you just fill in at right back? Can you do a job at left back? Can you do a job at right wing? He's already got like 300 games under his belt or something. And it's just like, he knows the tempo of the game. He knows the opposition. He knows the ground. He knows the atmospheres, etc., etc., etc. Whereby Lewis Skelly's coming in into his first proper full season at the Arsenal. And, he's just floating about a little bit. And I think they need to get their arm around him a little bit and kind of say, look, this is the position that we see you playing over the next 10 years. And this is where we need to work on or whatever, or add this to your game. Because I think actually, if you look at Trent, since he's gone to Real Madrid, all of the areas that he was excellent for Liverpool in haven't really worked at Madrid, where he kind of floats in between the fullback and the centre midfield role. And I would probably say that as football just evolves and evolves and evolves, and there's such a artistry in how coached these teams are now, you can't hover around as a player anymore. You get exposed pretty quickly. And I think that's where they need to make a tweak with Mars and just kind of resettle him down and let him refine the form that he found last year. Because he's obviously a massive player in there, mate. We've all seen it, but they just need to refine it.
I just think it's hard, isn't it? Like when you're not getting minutes, the realism is that he ain't gonna get that many minutes in terms of starts, is he? Like he might play against Crystal Palace. I'm not even sure he'd do that if I'm being totally honest in the Carabao Cup at the moment. But I just feel at the moment that. And like that Andy said in the chat, with a run, he'd be good. And I've got no doubts about that if he was given a run. But I just don't see him getting that run at the moment. Do you know what I mean? Especially with the level we got. And when Gabriel and Saliba come back, I'm actually thinking that Calafiori is going to have a bit of a battle with Hincapié on his hand, that left back role. Which I think is going to be an interesting one because I like everything that I see from Hincapié. Do you know what I mean? I think he gives you that added aggression in that team that I think is just going to make him stand out, if I'm being totally honest.
And he's the fastest player in the squad. I think I told you this before. Like I was talking to a pal of mine who pulled some of the data from a friend of his, and like Hincapié is the fastest clocked player in the Arsenal team. And it's not just by like a gnat's cock. It's by like a kilometre and a half. He's quicker than Madueke and Martinelli.
I think he'll end up at left back. That's my personal opinion. I think he will end up as our left back. Could be totally wrong, but I just think that.
I think that Calafiori's natural progression is to replace Gabriel at some point as well.
Yeah.
So I don't disagree with you.
Yeah, but he's definitely got something that's going to add a total different ingredient. And when we was talking about the other day against Chelsea, like with the physicality and all that. When you think of an Nkape, Gabriel, and Saliba already in that back line together, like it's a total different ball game, isn't it? Like they're going to think twice, basically. Do you know what I mean? And I think with them kind of players in the team, it just makes us such a strong unit. And I love the look of him. I love the look of him. I love what he did with Neto the other day. Do you know what I mean? He's got that bit between his teeth, and I just think the more games he gets in the Premier League, the more confident he's going to get. And I just think he's going to be an absolute incredible signing for us longer term.
Yeah, no, I think so too, mate. And the signs are very, very encouraging. I've been pretty impressed with every single signing we've made. The only one that's kind of been ever slight, not this, maybe underwhelming. It's been just like he's brought Norgard in to replace Partey, but he can't get a boot at the moment. There must be a period where he thinks he's going to have to use Norgard a bit more regularly. And I actually don't think that this game tomorrow is it. I don't like players like early on in their careers going up against their old employers. I just think there's just like way too much hysteria around it. That would be one point. I'd just go back on Madueke. I thought he was pretty poor against Chelsea when he come on, especially on the left-hand side. Like he just looked a bit frantic and a bit deer in the headlights with his touch and his movement and the way he was kind of getting on the ball, and nothing really kind of went for him, and the crowd got straight on top of him. Especially compared to how impactful he was coming off the bench against Bayern and how sharp he looked. Then going on at the Bridge, there was a shadow of the player that we saw 3 days earlier, or we'd seen in the month before. So I don't like this game for Norgard to come in and replace Zubimendi, if I'm being honest. Yes, he might know all the players, but give them all of that intel and that IP in the changing room or on the training ground. Like, don't come and ask him to do a job in this game, and let them get all over him,
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It gives them a chance, like you say, it gives them an opportunity, don't it, to even fire them up a little bit more, thinking, oh yeah, we're going to play against our old captain.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? So look, but mate, all in all, just analysing it, and I think we've done a pretty good job of it there. I don't want to dwell on it and get, I think we've covered a lot of the points that we want to see changed, and I'm sure Arteta will be onto them about. But it was abundantly clear that we were slightly poor. We lacked aggression in the one-on-one, in the 50-50, slightly in the tackle, and definitely in the second ball and the aerials. But I'm sure he would have got onto them, and if at the start of the week, mate, I turn around and say to you, right, Smugs, Spurs, Bayern, Chelsea, and I'll offer you 7 out of 9 points, unbeaten, the handoff. Do you know what I mean? So it's a good win.
When I looked at that fixture back in October, mate, like for me, like you said, at that time, I was thinking, Jesus Christ, that is a week and a half. Do you know what I mean? So, look, I've been, obviously, I haven't had much time to reflect on it after the game because obviously I've been going on at home. But what I have reflected is that actually that they needed to beat us more than we needed to beat them. Like, it's in their home ground. Yeah. The difference is that if we'd drew them 11 against 11, no one would have said nothing about it. They'd be like, do you know what? That's not a bad point for Arsenal. They've gone away to Chelsea. Do you know what I mean? One of the grounds ticked it off. They've got a point. They haven't given Chelsea any legway to come back in. They've kept them at bay with 6 points. The problem is the red card. The red card's the whole issue here, why everyone's gone a bit in a panic mode and thought they couldn't break them down. But like you rightly said, it's much harder at times, as we see with Man United Everton, to play against 10 men than 11. 10 players give everything their all. And Chelsea, we had to say, and look, I'm one of the most, I hate Chelsea, and probably more than most people, right? But they played pretty well. They played very well on Sunday. They made things very difficult for us. They made it hostile for us. I reckon we might look at this in 2-3 months' time and think, do you know what? Yeah, right, we got out of there, thankfully, with a point. And do you know another thing? Yeah, right. I remember the Man City game last year, the 2-2, where we went away, and we probably felt a little bit the same in terms of just the way that we was treated in their ground that day. And I felt it was a little bit like the same with Stamford Bridge on Sunday. Just let the players think about that. And then when February the 28th comes, we play Chelsea at home. we'll let them know what it's going to be like to play on our home ground. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think that you make a great point, and what we have done is that we've kept an unbeaten record going, which I think we're now unbeaten in 17 or something like that, or 18. I'll go back to the point I made to you, saying if you got offered 7 out of 9 points, the only way that I could very, very slightly improve it would be I'd love a win against Spurs, a draw against Bayern because of where we are in the Champions League, and a win against Chelsea. That would have been perfection. But all in all, nothing prospered, nothing gained. Arguably, that City game would have hurt them more because Stone scores in the 97th minute. It was us chasing the game. We managed to get back into it. And you have to applaud the resilience that they've shown in that to come back into the game and give themselves a fighting chance. And really, at the end of the game, it should have been us that nicked the winner. So, all in all, 5 points ahead of City, 6 points ahead of the Chelsea, fucking truckloads ahead of Liverpool. And we're still in a good moment, and we can add to that tomorrow night if we just get a good response, the home fans get on board, and we assert ourselves.
I think it's about us getting out the Everton game, mate. You know what I mean? Like the next 4 games, mate. Brentford, Villa, Wolves, and Everton. Yeah, right. If we can get out the away games, still not unbeaten. Yeah, right. I think we're in a really, really good place. I do really think we're in a good place. We've got players coming back, like you've rightly said. Havertz will be back soon, and I think that's a big thing for this team. I really do. I do think Havertz coming back will be a big thing for this team because I think actually he can play him in a number of positions. And like, do you know what I mean? Like against Chelsea at home, mate, Havertz is going to play that game. Do you know what I mean? And fucking do what he needs to do. And we've got really strong physical players to come back into this team. So it's just about, like you say, tomorrow night, go and get the win and get ourselves ready for Villa and just take game by game. But 5 points at this point in the season. And look, we lost 1 game in the league against Liverpool, which was a freak thing. Yeah, it was a goal that no one expected at that point in the game. So it could be much worse. Do you know what I mean? It could be much worse. And we just move on now. And I think we just throw that game in away now. And we'll look back at it in a few months' time and then decide actually, was it 2 points dropped or was it actually a point gained? And,
love it.
And one last thing I will say on that, right, and I think I said that at some point in the show is everyone's got to go away from home. So for me, it's about how many points you can pick up away from home. And actually, when I look at it, I look at Arsenal, and I think Arsenal are more likely to pick up more points away from home than any other team in this league at the moment.
Yeah, no, I agree. So,
we're going to go into the last part, the Ask Jim.
Yeah.
There's not that many questions, so that would be quite good. So here we go. First question from Tarek.
Well, should we cover off what the mystery prize part was?
Yeah. Cover the mystery prize first.
So obviously, when we get into the new year, games come thick and fast. And as much as Smuggs and Jim love to bring the podcast to you, we are also travelling fans that go to games. And what I'm going to do for this part now, for the next couple of shows, is we are going to do for the next 4, maybe 5 shows, a lucky draw, and the winner of each week will go into the draw, and then we will spin the wheel, and then the 5 best questions over the next 5 weeks will go into the hat, and whoever comes out of Smuggsy's lucky randomizer will win a ticket to come to a game with Smuggs and Jim.
Oh, that's a good one, isn't it, mate?
There you go, mate. And when I go to the Arsenal, mate, we don't, we don't go and sit in the shackles. We're, that'll be a proper day out. That'll be a proper seat.
And then we'll get them in between us as well, mate.
Exactly, we'll get them in between us. So, so that'll be a day at the Arsenal with Smuggs and Jim in the new year. All of that information will follow shortly once we do a randomizer and we work out when I'm going to jump on a tin can. But so I've seen about 6 or 7 questions fly around on various different things. So
so here we go.
Let's see what we got.
So here we go. We got Tarek saying, if everyone was fit, what would your first starting 11 and subs bench look like?
If everyone was fit, okay. I've kind of answered this before, but the subs bench will be different. Good question. Raya, White, Saliba, Gabriel, Calafiori, Rice, Subamendi, Havertz, Saka, Gyökeres, Eze. Bench, I can have 9, I think. Kepa, Timber, Lewis Skelly, Marino, Nwaneri.
Did you have one of the left backs?
Yeah, Lewis Skelly. Hincapi. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, did I start? I think I started Hincapi. No, yeah, Hincapi. Yeah, I started Calafiori. Right, that's 6. And then Madwakey,
7.
Martinelli, Trossard.
Cool. Interesting.
Yeah, so there's a few big names there left out. Like no Dauman, no Nwaneri. Did I leave Nwaneri out?
Okay,
No Dauman.
Jesus.
Yeah, no Dauman, no Jesus. I think Jesus will still leave in January, mate. If I'm being honest with you, yeah, I honestly think he's great that the club are getting him back fit and everything. But I do think that they're thinking about 250 grand a week, and they're thinking about probably life after him. If I'm being honest with you.
Mm.
Yeah, good question.
Cool. Yep. Austin Sullivan, how many points would you like to finish on this season? And do you feel Arsenal could have a Ballon d'Or winner very soon?
Okay. I mean, as many points as it takes to win the league, I couldn't really give a toss if it's 80 or 180. I think I do this thing with a pal of mine called Bilal after each game. I sort of put it in the calculator and look at where we're averaging. And I think we're tracking at around about 92 points at the moment. I think if we get something in the 90s, whether it be 90, 92, 94, I think 90 points wins the league this year. 92 is a 2.41 average, and we're about 2.39 at the moment. If we beat Brentford tomorrow, we'd be right on it. So, 92 is what I'm sort of targeting or earmarking. I had this conversation with a mate of mine the other day, and I believe in the provisional shortlists that he is a name that is on the one to watch already. And I do believe if we go and win the Premier League and or the Champions League, and England have a very good campaign in America, that Declan Rice will be very, very, very close to winning a Ballon d'Or.
Can see that definitely being the case. Next question from Andy, who's in the chat at the moment. Right, you have to sell a player, buy a player, and bring back a player in the club's history. Who are they?
Okay.
Sell a player first.
I'd sell a player. I'd sell Jesus.
Buy a player.
Any player in world football.
Wait, don't you? Buy a player.
Haaland.
And bring back a player.
Sanchez.
I think we always go on that one, don't we?
Yeah.
I think it's a bit of a joke from Mike, this one. I don't know if you've seen this one. Would you rather fight 12 duck-sized horses or 1 horse-sized duck?
1 horse-sized duck.
There you go. I'm just going to try and find the last one because I know you sent me something. Oh, wait, Margaret's got a question. Do you think players are playing too many games? Do you think it's any different from years gone by, or is it a squad game these days? Do you have a solution to many many games being played so close together?
It's a brilliant question. A really, really good question, actually. Yeah, I do think they do play too many games, Margaret. I would probably say, especially at the pinnacle of like top level elite football, which is those that are sort of regular Champions League clubs, and also those that play for their countries. I would argue that the Nations League was a bolt-on into international football that probably wasn't required. And that puts an incredible amount of intensity into those that then go and play for their country. I think there's probably at least 1, maybe 2 international friendly breaks that are a little bit overzealous, especially with some of the travelling that the players need to do. The Premier League is a global league now, and we have players from all over the world. The South Americans do an excessive amount of travelling. And also, for those of you that have been fortunate enough to travel the world, you all understand what things like jet lag and things like that do to fatigue in the body and different time zones. And the minute you go and play in Brazil, or, often Brazil play friendlies in quite far East Asia, you go 8-10 hours on 8-10 hours on time zones. That is just so arduous on the body. So that's really tough. And then I think something that David Dean highlighted, which, I think he was part of the FIFA movement, where they brought excessive, additional minutes both into half time and full time with the additional minutes now. And we're very used to seeing 1 added minute in half time and 4 to 5 added minutes at the end of games. You look at the City game, I think they had 4 minutes against Leeds at half time and then 10 minutes added time against Leeds in that game. Yes, I know that players are quite tactile now and run clocks down, which they've already worked on in regards to the fact that the goalkeeper can only hold on to the football for 6 seconds, and things like that. Now the new one obviously is about goalkeepers going down and feigning injuries because the referee has to stop play because you can't roll a goalkeeper off the side of the pitch because you can't do rolling subs. So that's another thing that they're going to look into. Yes, as paying fans, we want to see the football alive for a lot more time. But I think what's more noticeable now ever than more so is how many excessive off the ball injuries. I cannot remember the last time that we saw a leg breaking tackle. You could argue maybe the Casado one on Marino could have been like a tib or fib, but the number of injuries that happen now in the hamstring or in the groin or in the muscles that are kind of perceived to be around workload is just so regular. And you have to have such an excessive match day and also squad to be able to deal with the workload of a team now that has to be prepared to play 70 games a season. And it's damaging. I don't know how far they go with this. They get no Christmas break. We're playing the 23rd, 26th, 28th, 31st, so at the end of the day, these guys are all human beings who are starting families. We want to be sat there whilst we're off work watching football, but that's 4 games in 7 days over a Christmas period. I think we're the only league in the majors now that don't have a winter break and things like that. So it is excessive. And I don't know what the answer is, because I think the money in football derives that they need to put this level of output on. The other thing they're trying to introduce now, Smugs, if you see it in the other leagues, the Premier League haven't got to it yet, about going and playing all these fucking games overseas, and having these like one-off clashes in America or Australia or whatever. It's just like, well, how far is this thing going to go, mate?
Yeah, I'm not for that whatsoever. I don't know how you can utilise that and make that fair either. Do you know what I mean?
And the other thing, Smugs, just whilst Margaret makes such a good point, you seen with the World Cup now, because obviously it was a bit of a farcical with the Club World Cup, with the delays that they had, all the storms that they had at all the grounds. All of these grounds are open grounds; they're not got roofs on or whatever. They're talking about playing these games at midnight and stuff like that. TV times for the rest of the world are going to be awful. How are these things? I know every country, because it's a global sport, wants its day in the sun where it sets these World Cups up or whatever. But player safety, mate. What can you imagine if we have a lightning strike or something, or a player or a fan, gets hit by this excessive weather? It's just madness, mate. Like, what's going on?
Yeah, I'm like I said, I'm not a fan of it whatsoever. I just think that at the end of the day, like you said, I think that what they need to start looking at is like the amount of injuries that players are picking up in terms of the groins, the hamstrings. Do you know what I mean? Injuries that we're getting. I don't know. I just think that actually, I think it needs to be reviewed around all these international breaks. I don't know what the answer is, because I don't think that helps whatsoever. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what the answer is, mate, if I'm being totally honest with you, but like you think that you got all these players travelling like all the way across the world, and there's no surprise, is there, that all these players are coming back injured? You've got players coming back at different time zones. Do you know what I mean? And like you could have a Brazilian that turns back up on a Thursday afternoon, and then you'll have a 12:30 game on a Saturday. It's just, I feel that there's way too many games being expected to be played. And look, let's be honest, the game's faster than obviously what it used to be back in 30, 40 years ago. And obviously the players are obviously a lot more fitter, but due to them being a lot more fitter, they're more liable to get these injuries that they're getting. I'm not saying players didn't get injuries in the past, because of course they did, but you're looking at the games and look at England in the Euros the other year. Last year, was it?
Yeah.
That finished mid-July. Then Declan Rice was back with Arsenal, I think 2 weeks later.
Yes, it's just madness, mate. You know, it's crazy. Right,
mate.
I found a couple more questions. The one around Margaret. There's 3 over there, and then there's one more from Bilal.
I've got this one from Bilal. Why do you think there is such inconsistency in our recent performance? We've blown away Bayern, Spurs, and Madrid at home, yet struggled to Sunderland and Chelsea, which are both away. So it's quite interesting, isn't it? He said about the 3 home games, but he's mentioned the 2 away games being the games we struggled.
Yeah. I mean, football is such a moment's entertainment sport, and it's you know, when you're in a really good momentum on the day, and another team maybe is not quite at it. It can be just one of those things. I think that what has been noticeable where we've dropped points in those 2 games, I don't think it's a matter of being home or away. I think it's just been more a fact that we've not been quite at the races, and we've retreated a little bit negatively, and not been up for whether it's been being up for our battles or been setting ourselves up, like where we set ourselves up negatively against City, especially Liverpool and Sunderland, and invited pressure and got punished by dropping points in all 3 of those games, whereby in the Chelsea game, they asked us to raise a level and we had no response. And then obviously when we got into a good momentum, Spurs just weren't at the races, and we hammered them. And Bayern, we just managed the game brilliantly as a team, and we're riding high off of Spurs. And the crowd and the arena that night was just phenomenal. So we as fans have a responsibility to make the Emirates a fortress and make it like that every single time the team step out and operate as a 12th man. And then, you know, Mikel probably just needs to reassess the away games a little bit, like within game management and those away games, and try and drive the team on to be able to play at that same level of intensity away. Because, you know, we were sat there at Fulham and 3,500 away fans still do a proper job and make a presence there. So, you know, it's all to play for. But if you are that elite at home, you can have a slightly different level away from home and still get the job done. So, yeah, great question. But
yeah, sorry.
Yeah, you know, that's it.
Yep, got a couple more questions for you. Only Arsenal. Yep. Hi, Jim. Do you think Arsenal should loan out Waneri?
No, I don't. I think the, like, you know, to Margaret's point, which was a brilliant question, but I think there's a significant amount of minutes. There's a lot of games. You know, he wanted to get the minutes in his legs in the behind closed doors game that I think we beat Watford in. And got a load of minutes there. And I think there will be times, as with the League Cup, with the FA Cup starting, and probably in these Champions League games now that are slightly less important against lower opposition, with the utmost respect, where he's going to be really useful. So I still believe that he'll probably get 20-25 appearances in all competitions across the course of the season. And his time will come. You know, we're only just stepping out of November, and the season finishes at the end of May. If we go deep in all competitions, there's a bucket load of football to come.
George, Jim, where do you think Declan Rice stands with when you're talking about the best midfielders Arsenal have had at the club, for example? Do you think he's in the same conversation as Patrick Vieira and Liam Brady?
I think that's a great question as well, George. I think that will really only be relative to what he goes and puts on his mantelpiece at the end of his Arsenal career. I think at the moment he is the dictator in the team. He is the life and soul of the team, the heartbeat of it, and a lot of incredible moments are going through him. And he just needs to probably add a couple more open play goals and moments. He's affecting the game in his own half and in his own box as much as Vieira ever did, definitely, and maybe even Brady, who was a more attacking minded player. But I think maybe he needs like a couple more goals and one or two more assists to be in that like Vieira, Stevie G, Scholes camp of being like an all-time great. But all of them won major honours. Vieira captain 2 double-sides. Scholes has got a truckload of Premier League titles. Gerrard was integral into lifting the Champions League for Liverpool. So all of those things come with major accolades. I think if we go and get an army full of major trophies in the next 2 years, he'll be integral to it, and will be like a modern day legend at the club, which will decorate him in that same light. But he can't. I would probably say with someone like Fabregas, Smuggs, and we saw him play live so many times, he was everything that an Arsenal great should have been, but his biggest frustration would have been winning nothing at Arsenal, right? So he's we get stick off the Chelsea for thinking that Cesc was like an integral player for them because he went and won Premier League titles there. It drives me sick. He's an academy product of Arsenal. Barcelona, but he came through the ranks at Arsenal as a 16-year-old and should have won it all at Arsenal. So Declan's got to put the trophies up, and then yes, he's absolutely in the same bracket.
Last question. It's from Andy. You're Scrooge for the day. The ghosts for art football come back to see you. You can go back to give one manager as some advice, and what is it? You can stop one transfer. Who is it? What I'm going to ask you is the different brackets. You can stop one transfer. What transfer would you stop?
I can stop one transfer. What transfer would I stop?
Yes, one player that left the club.
Oh, sorry. So you can prevent one player from leaving.
Yeah. So
Van Persie to Man United.
Cool. And you can force one transfer through. Who is it? So a transfer that didn't go through.
Yeah. What was the first part? I'd give a manager some advice.
Oh, yep. Sorry. You can go back and give one manager some advice. Who is it and what is it?
Yeah, probably the only, because he was the manager of my entire Arsenal career, being Wenger. I would just the only advice I'd give Wenger is like, analyze the opposition and don't just focus on us, because every past player has said that's all he did. So if the past players who are top players are saying it, then that seems like really good advice. And then I can force one transfer through. Well, mate, I tell you, the only one that really rings a bell that didn't happen, that I think we all would have loved to have happened, bearing in mind the players we brought in the season and 2 after it, would have been Suarez when we had the old 40 plus £1.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. What a player he'd have been under Wenger.
Yeah. Can you imagine? With the players he had around him then, and then we'd have gone and added Ozil and Sanchez the 2 years afterwards. Fuck me! What a front three and front four we'd have had then. Christ. Absolutely. So great questions. I must say there was 2 that really stood out. So I'm going to go off the beaten path a bit and issue 2 tickets. Smugs, Margaret and Bilal. I thought both their questions were brilliant.
So we're putting them in the draw, are we?
Yeah, Margaret and Bilal both get a ticket in the draw.
There you go, guys. So congratulations to Margaret and congratulations to Bilal. You will be put into the draw. That will happen, I guess, just after Christmas. It will be. But yeah. So how many shows are we doing it for?
So they're going to look. we're going to do 4 shows, right? So because it'll kind of take us up to Christmas, and then it'll be a little bit of a Christmas announcement. So yeah.
Brilliant. So there you go, guys. Obviously, well done, guys. You are in the draw, and we'll get that draw done after we've done the 4 shows. Anyway, that's pretty much it for tonight. Obviously, I hope you've enjoyed the discussion. We've obviously reviewed the Bayern Munich game. We looked at Chelsea, and we've obviously looked ahead to Brentford and Aston Villa that are coming up over the next 4 days. Thank you very much, Jim, for another obviously really good show.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Yeah, you too. And I think the best way to cap it off is to get the win for him and say get well soon to little Bobby. Bless him. So we've all been rooting for him this week, and up the Arsenal, and let's have it against Brentford tomorrow night.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's have it against Brentford tomorrow night. We will be back next week, guys, at the same time, same place, 5:30 on next Tuesday, where we will do a deep dive into the performances that will be coming out this week against Brentford and then Aston Villa. But we'll also be looking ahead to Club Brugge. That'll be being played next week, and then looking into the weekend where we have Wolves at home. So loads to talk about next week. But obviously, I hope you all have a good week, and up the Arsenal tomorrow. Let's get the 3 points. Good night.
Up the go.